Today, I will be doing a study of 4 characters found in Luke 15 in the parables that Jesus told as the sinners were gathering around him, and then the Pharisees complained that he was eating and talking with sinners. Jesus told these parables to highlight 4 common types of people. Honestly, most of you watching this will probably fall into one of these 4 buckets. First, there's the lost sheep. Second, there's the woman with the lost coin. Third, the prodigal son. And fourth, the son who was staying at home faithfully serving his father while the prodigal son was gone. I'm going to go through one by one, and I hope you can learn something from one of these stories, if not multiple, to apply to yourself or to someone you might know. This is Zero Doubt. So first, let's go over the first story, which is the lost sheep. Okay, the lost sheep is where the sheep has wandered out of the fold and it cannot find its way back to its pasture. But Jesus leaves the 99 in the pasture and he goes to seek out the one that is lost. Presumably, the lost sheep wants to get back to the pasture. It's having trouble finding food, finding water. It might have wandered out thinking it's going to find something interesting out there, and then it realized pretty quickly that it wished it could get back, but it doesn't know the way, hence it is lost. Jesus goes looking for those types of people. And there are many people like that in the world today who they want to do the right thing, they want to go the right way, but they just don't even know where to start. They're stuck in some sin or some lifestyle and they don't even know how to get out of it. Jesus is chasing down those people, be it you or be it somebody else. Jesus wants you to find the way and he wants to bring you back. Not only does he want you to come back, he will carry you back home. And there's one interesting concept to consider when it comes to the story of the lost sheep. It's common practice these days, if you get lost out hiking or in the woods or anything, and you have an idea that someone might be coming to look for you, it's better to stay put than to keep wandering if you don't have any idea where you're going, because that person will try to follow your steps and they'll have a better chance finding you if you haven't gone too far. Of course, Jesus isn't limited by those same restrictions, but it applies very similarly. If you're lost and you want to find the way back, it's better to stop striving, to stop moving, trying to follow your own whims, thinking you might find the way, and just sit still and remember the fact that Jesus is seeking you out. Acknowledge that fact and wait for him, because he is coming to find you and he's going to bring you home. When you sit there and you meditate on that fact, though, you'll realize Jesus is already there. He's just waiting for you to stop moving so that he can pick you up on his shoulders and carry you back home. If you're constantly moving, trying to walk away, he's not going to pick you up and force you to go back with him. He's waiting for you to let him pick you up. So let him pick you up. Stop striving, trying to find your own way. That's the lesson for the lost sheep. By the way, I've got my notes over here, so don't mind me looking over, but the second lesson is the story of the lost coin. If you've been a faithful believer, you're following God, you're already in his kingdom, you've got a house right there, you're living there with him. But not everything is in order. You've got your 10 coins, or at least you thought you did, and you look and there's only 9. Something's wrong in your house. You have all the basic needs provided for, everything except that seems right, but you can just tell that something is off. This story represents a faithful believer who's been in the house of the Lord, following him, but something is out of line in the house. They have their 9 coins, but they need the last one. Imagine those coins to represent different details of your spiritual and physical life. If one of them is missing, that means that one of them is out of line with the truth that God has provided to us, and you're fully aware of that. That's why you can tell that it is missing. And this woman in the parable, she goes and she looks for that lost coin to reconcile it to the other 9. She's trying to bring whatever part of her life is out of line in line with her deepest held beliefs and values. If that defines you, I encourage you to look diligently around your whole life. Take stock of everything that's going on. Don't just look at the 9 and say, oh, that's good enough. As long as I have 9 out of 10, that's only one's missing, right? It's not a big deal. I encourage you to look for that coin. Find that thing so that you can define it and then reconcile it with the rest of your life so that it's not sitting out there separate. And sometimes to find that coin and to reconcile it, you have to move something in your life. You can't just leave everything as is. You might need to move and look behind something. You might need to fully remove something from the house of your spiritual life in order to find that coin. That is the parable of the lost coin. So the first one, you're lost. You don't even know the way back. Rest and let Jesus pick you up. lean on him, trust in him. Second one, something's out of line in your spiritual life. Take stock, figure out what it is, and reconcile it to the rest. The third parable here is the prodigal son, where there's two characters I'm going to go into. And of course, the first one is the prodigal son himself. He asks for his father's inheritance early, and he goes out and squanders it. A key point, though, to this story is that he is already in the family. He is the son already. So you could imagine this as someone who's already in the family of God. He's already a son, she's already a daughter, but they recognize that God has provided grace and forgiveness to them, and they take advantage of it. They decide that, oh, I can go and do what I want. I'm going to go and I'm going to squander this gift of grace. Of course, they don't think of it that way, but that's the mindset, is that they're going to do what they want. They're going to take advantage of it because they know they already have that grace. So they go out and they live a worldly lifestyle, engaging in all kinds of sin, believing that grace will cover them, just like the prodigal son knew his father's inheritance would cover his sinful pursuits. But like the prodigal son, anyone who lives that way will eventually realize that that is wrong, and they will realize that they've been taking advantage, and they will return home just as the prodigal son did, hopefully. But the difference between this story and the lost sheep, right, is that the lost sheep wants to go home, they just don't know the way. The prodigal son does not want to go home even though he knows the way. And that is why the father in that story did not go to seek out the prodigal son, because he knew that he could come home at any time. And he knew he would welcome him, even if the prodigal son didn't believe that. So if that's you are this prodigal son who's out living in rebellion that you're fully aware is rebellion, you need to know a couple of things. First of all, you can't just sit in the rebellion waiting for God to come and get you. He helps those who are sick, who need a doctor. He didn't come to heal the healthy. Like with the lost sheep, he helps those who can't help themselves. But if you know the way home, you know how to help yourself. You're saved. You are a son. You're part of his family. You need to know this if you're living in rebellion. And I wish I would have heard this more when I was living in rebellion. You never stopped being your father's child, no matter what you have done. And your father has never thought differently of you. The prodigal son was scared to come back home because he knew what he'd done wrong, and he felt that his father would not accept him back. He felt that his father would despise him for what he had done. But when he decided to come home, the father ran to him. So God is not going to force you to come back if you're living in rebellion, but he wants you to nonetheless, and he celebrates when you do come back. He sacrificed the fatted calf for his son coming home. God would love for you to know when you're living in that rebellion that he just wants you to come home so that he can lavish his multitude of blessings on you. He longs to provide them to you, but he's not going to force them onto you. If you choose to live in a pigsty, he will let you. But he hopes that you will see the disgusting nature of sinful lifestyles of rebellion, and come back home to him so that he can love you. Finally, we have the elder son who was mad that his father was going to such lengths to bless the prodigal son when he came home. This is the classic person who's been a Christian for so long, working hard in their faith, trying to honor God and obey him everywhere. But they get prideful. They think so highly of themselves and the way they live their life that they can't stand to see someone who's been broken and stuck in sin coming into the fold and being loved just the same. They think that they deserve more. And this section was specifically directed at the Pharisees who are mad at Jesus talking to the sinners. Look, y'all, here's the main lesson about the elder son. It's all to do with pride, thinking you're better than somebody else. The first example of it is when the elder brother is upset about the younger brother being treated so well because he thinks he should be treated better. But the second example could go unnoticed if you don't look closely at the passage. And that is when the son was complaining to his father, saying, "Why didn't I get to have a feast with my friends when I was here? And yet you provide it to the son who just came home." But the father says, "You are always with me, and everything I have is yours." In other words, the elder son probably could have asked and God would have provided. But the key thing is that he did not. The elder son was so caught up in performing and earning and doing everything he thought was right, rather than leaning in humble dependence on the father. The prodigal came home knowing he had no other place to go and learning it the hard way. But the elder son hadn't come to that conclusion conclusion yet. He still leaned on his own strength. And the Father called him to humbly ask for what he wants and needs, because he simply wants the Son to recognize that he needs the Father to provide. Whatever one of those four camps you're in, whatever story you learn from, whether you're in the kingdom or out of it, whether God's chasing you down to help you or you're actively running from him, know that he loves you and he will welcome you back with open arms, and seek him now. Don't forget to like and subscribe.